What's up everyone and welcome back to HateWatchers. Today we trudge on ahead with our reviews of the Acolyte with episode 7, Choice. Let's jump right into the breakdown, which means spoilers ahead. We start on Brendok 16 years in the past, where the Jedi are collecting only the finest herb their scanners can pick up. Kelnaka is metal detecting because that's what you do when you're 200 years old. He's just missing some white New Balance shoes. TORBIN doesn't want to eat his peas, he wants to go home. And he's not going to eat his peas, so they might as well just let him go home. But Squid reminds him that they're looking for a virgins in the Force that can create life before offering TORBIN some cuttlefish. Trinity tries to talk to Master Squid about her Padawan, but she can tell that he needs to fart before they can talk, so she encourages him to let it out. There you go. That's a big boy. Squid hops on his CGI 9000 and finds the mystical frozen urine tree where Mae and Osha are playing invisible catch. Weird kids. He tails them to their mountain fortress, which is impossible to miss, yet somehow undiscovered after 7 weeks of the Jedi looking for stuff like this. Master Squid looks in on the witch's teachings and catches them worshipping this planet's butthole. He hurriedly reports to Trinity that the witches are planning a dark, stinky ceremony, smellier than cuttlefish, and the girls might be in danger. Outside the coven, Trinity says she's going in, and Squid says but there's 50 of them, and Trinity surprises us all with this anti-feminist response.
50 women.
The Jedi stop the ceremony, and TORBIN's mind gets invaded through black magic, where Mama Prime plays on his desire to return home. But then it takes a weird, Harvey Weinstein-approved turn when it gets oddly sexual. In an attempt to get that image out of his head, TORBIN's eyes turn African-American, and he drops to his knees. TORBIN snaps out of it, and before things get even more creepy, the Jedi say, "Thank you so much for having us," and make a quick exit. Back on the ship, TORBIN is already in timeout, and Master Squid is like, what did he do this time? Mae arrives for testing, and TORBIN takes a cooties sample. Master Trinity is explaining what she wants Mae to do, and Mae interrupts her to ask what she wants her to do. She fails the test so spectacularly that Trinity is forced to ask Mae if she's special.
I don't know. Mama said...
Mama says that.
Mama says...
Mama say that.
Thank you for explaining that to me.
Then she says everyone must be sacrificed and walks out like that's not an important little detail. Osha is doing her testing next, and Trinity wakes up after she had fallen asleep due to boredom. Later, she says the council doesn't want anything to do with the twins. Smart. And Master Squid protests. Trinity tells him that he's being emotional, and he snaps back, "I'm not being emotional." The Padawan has run the numbers, and the girls have an exceptionally high cootie count, some of the highest ever, even more cooties than Master Yogurt. TORBIN gets jacked up by the thought that these girls are his ticket home and screams, "It's TORBIN time!" as he hops onto a speeder and jets off with Squid in pursuit. The JV team mama does some stuff to Mae that would get child services called, and Mae runs off yelling she should have burned this place down when she had the chance. Mama Prime's decision is questioned by the other witches, and this show's beautiful dialogue continues.
You may be their mother, but you are also our leader.
Right now I choose mother.
Mae breaks the door so no one can enter or leave, but she doesn't take into account that the outside of their castle is just a glorified staircase that Squid and TORBIN start ascending. While the witches prepare for battle, Mae starts a fire and just stares at it, calling for her mom. But with two moms, each has plausible deniability, so neither come to help her. The second string mama tells the Jedi their next step will be their last, and Master Squid slowly tests this boundary. Master Squid starts to ask where the twins came from, but then he realizes he just doesn't care anymore. Then Mae comes in, and Squid calls her Osha, which was the funniest part of the episode, and the silver metal mama moves to strike, forcing TORBIN to draw his weapon. Then Mama Prime starts to show her true demonic form, and Mae begins dissipating too, but Squid stabs Mama Prime. She looks at him and says, "Why are you doing this?" And Squid whispers to her, "The power of none." Thankfully, the demon is vanquished, and Mae is sad. Good, fuck her too. And backup Mama is like, fuck. She attacks Master Squid and gets pissed off when her witchy powers are not as powerful as she thought. The mountain is rocked by an explosion, and runner-up Mama says, "Fuck this noise," and bails. She possesses the body of the Wookiee Jedi, while all her witch sisters have teleported to a Billie Eilish concert. The possessed magic carpet attacks the Jedi, and TORBIN and Master Squid work together to hold back his lightsaber arm, and I don't think this show gets how strong Wookiees are. Master Trinity gets uploaded into the Matrix and says, "I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you," and when the witches see T-Swift come out for a surprise duet with Billy, the basic witches all just lose it. Master Squid finds the girls on the broken catwalk and tries to save both of them, until he remembers how stupid Mae is and lets her go. Later on the ship, Master Trinity and Master Squid really screw up their high five. Master Squid wants to tell the council the truth, but Master Trinity is like, "Really? You want to get us kicked out over this turd?" Osha wakes up and asks what happened, and Squid says, "Remember your sister?"
She's dead! Gone forever! Died a horrible, painful death! Gone, gone, gone!
And the episode comes to an end. But stick around for the credits, where they're playing a knockoff Beyonce song during Star Wars.
And I think it's gonna be the good part. Don't wanna feel at all.
Sincerely, go fuck yourselves. And with that, we've reached that point in the video where we have to decide if this episode was a great watch or a hate watch. And this is another certified hate watch. But when you're retelling the same story from episode 3, a hate watch is always going to be the result. It's kind of funny that they really thought they needed to revisit the single worst piece of Star Wars media ever produced. And the story is even worse the second time around, to be honest. When they weren't just reusing footage for about a third of this episode, they weren't adding a whole lot of context, while further cementing the massive problems episode 3 introduced. The idea that the twins were the result of a vergence in the Force a la Anakin only went further down the path of being a horrendous, irredeemable part of this show that cheapens the original Star Wars story. And the idea that the events shown in this episode would lead a Jedi Master to liquid seppuku is laughable. Especially when the witches themselves were being as confrontational as they were, and that's even before Mother, who gives a fuck, started doing demonic shit. Her entire witch coven is prepared for war, with weapons drawn, performing dark side rituals on kids, and you start doing demonic shit, don't sit there and pretend you're some misunderstood good guy. But we're obviously putting far more thought into this than the creators are. Always a good sign with a multi-billion-dollar franchise. I loved how they added no further explanation for the explosion in the witches' coven. The thought going into this flashback was that the Jedi were going to be responsible for it in some way, which actually might have given some credibility to TORBIN's later struggles and death. But it's still just an accident caused by Mae and the witches themselves. And again, when they're doing straight up demonic possessions and dark side rituals on children, it further justifies the Jedi's actions. The whole point of the Acolyte was to show the Jedi in a bad light, per the creator herself, but they're not even accomplishing that. There's still no explanation about the nature of these space witches. Who the fuck are they? Where did they come from? Why can they do what they do? How the fuck are they disintegrating into black smoke? What is happening? I'd rather watch an entire movie trilogy based on LIZZO's Star Wars character than another episode of this crap. And TORBIN's motivation for Leroy Jenkinsing into the Coven was because he was homesick? It's just more childish shit from childish storytellers. To think that a single scene of a Padawan wanting to go home would lead him to kamikaze into this stronghold. An episode like this is supposed to add more context to the first telling of the flashback. But we don't come out of this with a new outlook on the events, and we have even less sympathy for the witches that the creators want us to sympathize with. The explosion was an accident caused by Mae at her mother's prodding. The twins' origins weren't explained in a way that respects Anakin's special circumstances, and the Jedi didn't commit some massive sin that they'd carry with them their whole lives. It just makes the way this show skirted around these events, saving them for this big reveal, all the more stupid. The only real added context we got was that Soul had a chance to save one of the girls and chose Osha. But even that doesn't make sense when he could have lifted the girls rather than trying to lift this collapsing bridge. It's all just so bad. And now the Jedi know about these girls being a virgins in the Force. So even Qui-Gon in Phantom Menace would have been like, "I've encountered a virgins in the Force." Just like those other Jedi did 85 years ago, so I guess it's not that big a deal. Maybe I'll leave this slave boy here. He seems to like the sand anyway. The CGI was still hilariously bad, the action was nothing special, and even little shit like Kelnaka using a metal detector in Star Wars, it just makes you question how something this objectively terrible ever made it past the first internal screen test. And of course, this episode was not worth $22.5 million, just like all the other episodes. This one only got over 30 minutes by using recycled footage from episode 3. I don't think this entire season so far has looked worth $22 million total. Well, there's only one episode left in this shit show, and they left a lot to wrap up in the finale. They have to save Osha, who also needs to complete her flirting with the dark side arc. They have to deal with Mae, confront the Sith, and somehow keep his existence a complete mystery from the Jedi. And they still have to explain if these two girls are so powerful in the Force, how come neither of them can run without face planting? This episode didn't do anything to develop hype for the finale, and nothing is set to be wrapped up in a satisfying manner. Was this retelling of episode 3 worse than that first awful episode? What are your predictions for the finale? Just how stupid do you think things will get? Let us know in the comments. And leave a like on the video if you liked it, and subscribe to HateWatchers to stay up to date on the Acolyte. Thank you for screaming, it's TORBIN time with us today, and we'll catch you on the next one.